Good morning. Hand today came from last night's play. Had an ace jack offsuit. This was a little surprising to me. So we had three limpers. This wasn't really happening a whole lot in the game. You get one, maybe two guys that would usually limp, but having three, having this many. So, having two limpers, and I'm in middle position, so I'm talking like if I'm in the button or if I'm in the big blind, it's possible you get one and then two limpers going around. But, two out of the first four wasn't super usual. This player's playing 34-2, pretty wide. This player's not as wide. Definitely both seem to be passive. Villain 8. He's the relevant player here. Has raising first in from mid position 9%, so 12 out of 136. Pre-flop raises 21. His limp, or I'm sorry, his VPIP is 68. So I kind of put together a range that looks something like this, maybe 12%. I think he probably would have raised jacks plus, ace queen, maybe a few more. I mean, this isn't large enough, so maybe you can kind of add, say he would have raised tens, nines, eights, and so forth. Maybe you would have raised ace jack, maybe a couple more of these suited hands or suited aces, suited Broadway hands. But I'm gonna leave it a little bit wider, and then it's gonna be on me. And ace jack probably doesn't fit into always isolate range. Definitely, I looked at this and we have one player, Button, who is playing loose. He's got 63%. Hasn't 3-bet yet. And you can see he is definitely limping a whole lot. Much less likely to call a 2-bet, but he's only faced it twice. So I think this is a playable hand. Better if it's suited, but I went ahead and raised 5 big blinds. Maybe needed to raise it to 6. While I'd like everyone to fold, if the blinds call, I've got the best absolute position in a multi-way pot with, an ace, okay kicker, I'll say decent kicker. Not the best spot to be in, but I could be okay. So big blind and both limpers call. I think that was a little surprising, but once the big blind calls, it makes it more likely for both these guys to call. I was also paying attention to Villain 6. He's a short stack, so I was ready if he limped and I raised and he shoved and Villain 8 folds, then I would have probably called with ace jack. That probably would have been a loose call, but I think at that point he's getting desperate. I have seen him shove, post flop, just open shove on the flop. So if I flop, a top pair hand and he does that, I likely will call. If he shows me trips or 2 pairs, he shows me trips or 2 pairs. It's just he's playing loose, and you can see he does. I have seen some of his hands, and I didn't think that he was doing that with only trips and so forth. So getting back to this player, what do I think he's going to fold? In response, his limp fold stat is actually about 56%. So he does fold. So I think out of these, he's probably getting rid of his suited connectors. Probably getting rid of his offsuit hands. I think most people keep their pocket pairs hoping to set trip or to set mine, and probably their suited aces hoping to hit ace high or the flush. I'm leaving in these king queen queen jack jack 10 since it's flush and suit and straight possibility. Probably even king jack suited. So 8% range, and then we see a flop of ace 10 4. That hits our range. Pretty dry, low connectedness on this board. It's a rainbow pot villain, so check to me. I think in a multi-way pot, we're going to play a little bit more straightforward. Top pair, third kicker, definitely I went ahead and bet. I bet half pot. First two limpers folded, villain 8 calls, and then we get a 10. And that's not really good because I think villain could be calling with an ace, could be calling with a 10. Obviously, he's got more aces in his range just based on here, but he does have 10s. Could he have called with a lower pocket pair, 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s, maybe? Just see where he's at. He checks. At this point, I'm probably ahead. I think I'm ahead, but I didn't want to bet and then have him raise me because he doesn't think I have the ace. So I took the passive way to avoid that check raise with our third kicker and have to fold to that check raise. Is there any reason to think he would have? Not really. Not really. I didn't check at the time, but we could easily just go ahead and look at the check raise. 11%, 3 out of 27. Not terribly large, but I did check with the idea that if I check and he bets, I'm gonna be calling down on the river. 9 of clubs hits, he checks, and I think here's where I missed. I probably should have bet. Probably should have bet the river just for some value. I kind of think a 10 would have bet now. I think pocket 9s probably would have bet here to try to get some values. Not sure if ace is bet or not, but that's what. If they do bet, I'm calling, and I beat all of the ones because I think he would have raised ace king, ace queen pre-flop. All right, so how do we do GTO? If I had to guess, I either missed the bet on the turn or missed the bet on the river. I feel like this needed 2 streets of value, and I think the river, once he checked again on the river, I could have bet and possibly gotten ace smaller kicker to call. All right, so villain. I should probably change that. Villain's going to be betting about 9% of the time. He's betting some trips. He's leading. We should have probably fixed this and said that he's going to be c-betting 100% of the time because he didn't really show aggression. And I think that's what we are going to do. We're going to do this. All right. So now he's just going to always check on the flop. All right, now it's on us. What do we do? Looks like we're betting 45% of the time. Our bets are top pair, 2 pair. Okay, so we are betting. We're not really messing around a whole lot. We're going to take our strength, try to get some value from it. Our sets, looks like we are checking 10 aces and checking 10s, and I think that's like what we saw yesterday, where if we have trip aces or trip 10s, we've basically depleted the deck of other cards that villains could have had to call. Now, I understand the aces, 10s less so, because I think with the 10s, you have got all of those aces that could have called. But now here's the thing: this is just heads up play against 4 players, or against 3 other players in this multi-way pot. I would suspect we need to bet because we have a higher likelihood that somebody has a hand that's going to call and give us some value from it. What other hands? Some of our weak pairs, some of the low pocket pairs are betting about half the time. 2s, 3s, 5s, 6s, 7s. Those are probably some of our bluffy hands. Our gut shots are betting. mostly betting, and our 2-card backdoor flush draws. Not so much with the aces. I guess the aces, these suited aces with the low kickers, tend to be checking. We tend to favor checking here because it does have kicker problems. We don't want to start building up a pot on the flop. We could check, keep it a little bit smaller, and go for some value on the turn or the river. So let's check that. Let's say we check. Villain checks again. Now we're betting a little bit higher frequency. But if he bets, if we checked and he bets, let's say that 2 of hearts, something starts connecting with the hearts, but isn't really going to change the board a whole lot. Now we just continue our check. All right, so it's on us. What about ace jack? We got ace of spades, jack of hearts. We are going to be mostly betting here, so I like this. And again, this assumes heads up, but at this point we had a 4-way pot going. So I did bet, and then we got 10 of spades. 10 of spades. Now, villain should be betting. So he would have check called like his ace jack, ace tens. Now he is betting. He's leading out trip tens. And quads. And full house. I would not have assumed this. Question is why. So if we bet those hands, I guess villain's going to be calling us with all of the aces. We're going to get some value versus if we check villain's or myself in position, I'm missing out on some of these. I'm missing out on some bets. So being aggressive when we turn that 3 of kind, that seems strange to me because it almost seems like when I've seen that 10, it almost just kind of gives it away to say, yeah, he's got a 10, he's got trips, because he doesn't want to go check. I guess that's why we have ace jack here. Why we have some of the king queen jack queen jack hands, where we're doing it as a bluff, but if called we still have the gut shot. So I need to make a note of this, that with villain's play, that's what he should do. Now let's assume this is GTO and he checks to us. What do we do now? And it does look like if we bet with ace jack on the flop, we should be betting again with ace jack offsuit. So only hands we're really not. We're checking behind a full house. So that'll be aces full again, and that's again we've just hit the deck, hard. Quads, I'm sure we're betting because the aces that are out there are top pair hands. Top pairs that we're not betting are the very weak kicker, ace 2, ace 3, ace 4, ace 5, ace 6. We're checking those. We're betting the middle ones. So right here, it does look like I made the mistake. I should have been betting the turn. So let's say I did bet the turn. And let's say he calls again. And then 9 of club comes out. And let's say he checks. So at this point, he should be checking almost 100%. Then GTO says we fire out a third barrel. So 3 times for value. I think we bet. Villain should be calling with all of his low aces. So I made a mistake here. So what happens if I make this a call? If I make those aces a call, does that change anything? I'm sorry, check. So I made it a check. He checks, and then I should be betting for value. So yeah, I screwed up. Let's try this again. That's not. We don't want villain to donk unless you've shown aggression on a flop, because I do think this is a 10NL game. I think quite a few play like this, they check to the aggressor. They do it on the flop, on the turn. Them just check and go for that check raise when they hit the big hand. So, whoops. Yeah, don't donk. Let's try that again. So it should be 100% check for us. There we go. All right, so 100% check. We do have some bets and checks with our ace jack. Still looks like we are betting top pair and 2-pair. We're betting trip 4s, but we're still checking 10s and aces. And again, this assumes a heads up pot, so I can understand that. I can understand that. So then we have 10 of spades, correct? And villain should have checked. So don't donk. Should have checked because he. Hold on, cancel. No, I bet and he calls. He should be calling with those ranges. Aces, 10s. Alright, so now he checks and it's on us. And now we can kind of mix it up. Mostly betting top pair. The small aces were not. So now this is kind of more in line with how I played. I still should be betting more than checking with this ace spades jack of hearts. Maybe about 60-40 possibly. So out of 65 combos, we're betting 39%, or 0.39 out of 0.66. That might be between about 60% or so. So I checked here, and then we faced the 9 of clubs. And then villain should be betting a lot. He doesn't. He checks, and then we should be betting. But I don't think. I mean, villain should be betting all of those. I don't think he does. So what does villain have here? I think he probably has like a suited ace. He does ace 8, ace 8 of diamonds. So he should have been betting at this point. He didn't. So let's go. Let's do some checks on here. Let's do these. Fun. Yeah, ace 4. Let's say ace 10, ace 9. He would bet. I don't think he's betting any of those. I think quads bets, jack 10's bet, 9's bet. I think 8's check. So this is on the 9 of clubs. Let's do that. All right, so he checks all of those. And then, yeah, we should be betting. Should be betting for value. So no matter what, I think I lost out on either one or two more streets of value. On a player like this with ace 8, we can kind of go back to here. He's got basically 100% of his range that he's checking. We should be betting. again, and he would be correct in calling those aces. Then he would call those aces, and then when he checks again, we should be betting again. If he all of a sudden leads into us, we're probably behind at that point. So messed up this hand, but we learned a little bit. Learned that villain, out of position player, with his range, once he catches those trips, he should be betting the turn. That's proper GTO. I wouldn't have thought about that. And I think a lot of people wouldn't have thought about it. I think that's the situation to check raise, but I think it might be stronger to bet. And we'll also have to have some bluffs in there to balance that as well. And then for us, definitely go for more value. All right, hopefully you like this. If you do, look tomorrow for another.